Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome back to your Writing 103 course. This is lecture 8, and today we continue the previous lecture about telling a story, how to tell a story. The lecture components for today, we have personal narrative, story, like the story we studied in lecture 7. And we have first person pronouns, transition words, organization, the topic sentence, the supporting sentences, the concluding sentence. We studied some of these before, okay, like organization, beginning, middle, and end. And we also studied some transition words. Now, let's start with the personal narrative, the story. What is a personal narrative? It's another name for story, a story that you write about yourself, something that you did. Okay, it tells a story from your point of view, and it uses first person pronouns like I, my, me, and we, our, and us. These pronouns are called first person pronouns. First person pronouns. The personal narrative has a beginning, a middle, and an end, like the example we studied in lecture 7. In a narrative or a personal narrative, the topic sentence introduces the story. The topic sentence is the first sentence. After that, we have supporting sentences. And the supporting sentences tell us about what? The setting, place, and time, characters, and action. And I hope you remember this also from lecture 6, not from lecture 7. The concluding sentence ends the story and tells what it means. The concluding sentence, which is the last sentence in the story. Now we will look at these things in detail, one by one. Okay? First person pronouns. How many pronouns do we have in this table? We have 6 pronouns. I is the subject pronoun. I had an interesting trip last July. Me is an object pronoun. The zookeeper gave me a snake. He gave me a book. He told me a story. Me is an object pronoun. My, we call this an adjective pronoun. Adjective pronoun. My brother, my car, my sister, my family. My brother held the snake too. Okay, so I, me, and my, first person singular. Okay, we have also first person plural, like we, Ahmed and I, we, Ahmed, Khalid, and I, my father, my mother, my brothers, and I, we. We watched an animal show. We watched, subject pronoun. Notice we is a subject in the sentence. Us is an object pronoun. My father drove us to the zoo. We, us. Adjective pronoun, it was very close to our home, our car, our home, our trip. Okay. Look at this paragraph. It's a story or a personal narrative. Someone wrote about a trip to the zoo or to a new zoo. Let's read it together first. I had an interesting trip last July. My father, mother, brother, and I. How many people? 4 people. We went to a new zoo downtown. My father drove us, my mother, my brother and I, us, to the zoo. He drove us. It, the zoo, was very close to our home. Our home. Notice the first person pronouns. They are written in red. We walked. We, subject pronoun. We walked around the zoo after we arrived. After we arrived. We saw many animals. What did we see? We saw many animals. Some animals were beautiful. Some animals were funny. I really liked the snakes. I liked the snakes very much. I really liked means I liked very much. I thought they were fascinating. They were fascinating. My brother didn't like them. Them means the snakes. My brother didn't like the snakes. He thought they were scary, frightening. Later on, after that, we watched an animal show. We watched an animal show. During the show, the zookeeper gave me a snake. Gave me a snake, me. I held it for 5 minutes. It was really heavy. It, the snake, it was really heavy. But it, again, it refers to the snake. It was beautiful. Later on, after that, my brother hold, to hold something in your hands, held the snake too. Now he doesn't think they are scary. Again, all the words that are written in red are first person pronouns, and we use them when we talk about personal experience, when we write a personal narrative like a story. This person or this writer is talking about a visit he took to the zoo with his parents and brother. And notice it's in the past. Last July. And so all the verbs are in the past. Can you locate the verbs? Had, went, drove, was, walked, saw, etc. All these are verbs in the past. I want you to remember this slide and refer to it so that we can write something similar. Now, let's look at something else, time transition words. Time transition words. These words connect ideas together, okay? And they tell us the order of events. First, then, after that, later on. Look at the examples. Ahmad studied after he ate lunch, or Ahmad studied before he ate lunch. Notice the difference? They are not the same. He ate lunch, then he studied. Ahmad studied after he ate lunch. What did he do first? He ate lunch. Ahmad studied before he ate lunch. He studied, then he ate lunch. Opposite meaning. Dad and I went fishing. We went fishing. Meanwhile, at the same time, Mom made our lunch. We were fishing and Mom was cooking lunch at the same time. Meanwhile, after Dad and I went fishing, Mom made our lunch. This is different. We went fishing, then after that, Mom made our lunch. Before Dad and I went fishing, Mom made our lunch. Different meaning. Okay, Dad and I went fishing after Mom made our lunch. And while Dad and I went fishing, Mom made our lunch. Notice, while and meanwhile have the same meaning. So these two sentences are the same. The sentences with meanwhile and while. Now, this is a story we studied in lecture 7. You remember it? Now, look at the words in red. All these are time transition words. We have before, on Monday, the next day, on Friday, later on, first, finally, at last, in the end, and after that. Study this very carefully and refer to lecture 7. Now, also in this paragraph, the same paragraph we studied about the trip to the zoo, we have some transition words, time transition words. We have after, later on, during, and later on again, and in the end. Do you know the meaning of all these words? You must know them and try to write them or use them in sentences. For example, number 1, we walked around the zoo after we arrived. I went out after I studied. I visited my friends after I finished my work. Later on, after that, we watched an animal show. Later on, I went home. During the show, the zookeeper gave me a snake. During lunch, my father asked me to bring some water, etc. Now, look at the following words. All of these are time transition words. I want you to look them up in a dictionary, and you have to know the meaning of them and try to make or write sentences using these words. They are very easy. You can use an English dictionary and write sentences using these words. Okay? Now let's talk about the topic sentence. What is the topic sentence? The topic sentence is usually the first sentence in a paragraph, and it gives us an idea about the topic, about the paragraph. It names the topic, and it tells what the paragraph will explain about the topic. In the narrative essay or paragraph, the topic sentence introduces the story. It comes at the beginning of the story. For example, this is the same paragraph we studied. What's the topic sentence? It's the first sentence. I had an interesting trip last July. All the paragraph is about this sentence, is about the trip. So you have to start your paragraph with a topic sentence. I had an interesting trip last July. Then all the other sentences describe this interesting trip. Did he say I had a boring trip? No, it's an interesting trip. It was interesting. All the sentences support this idea. Okay? Now, what comes after the topic sentence? We have the supporting sentences, the middle sentences. What do they tell us? They give us examples. They give us details about the topic. Okay? The same paragraph, the sentences in red, all these sentences, they support, they give us details. What happened during the visit to the zoo? For example, my father, mother, brother, and I went to a new zoo downtown. My father drove us to the zoo. It was very close. We walked. We saw many animals. I liked the snakes, etc. All these sentences describe what happened during the visit to the zoo. So they support, they give us details about the topic, or about the topic sentence. And the last sentence in the paragraph is called the concluding sentence. Usually the concluding sentence repeats the topic sentence or summarizes the main points. Look at the last sentence. What's the last sentence here? In the end, we all had a good time at the zoo. Now, notice the topic sentence, I had an interesting trip. And the concluding sentence, we had a good time. Interesting and a good time. Almost the same meaning. So the topic sentence and the concluding sentence are almost the same. You can see some examples or a personal narrative example on this web page. Now, what I want you to do is to write a story. I want you to write a story about a trip you took, for example, to Mecca or to Abha or to any place in Saudi Arabia or abroad, to London, to Paris, anywhere. First, describe the setting. What do you mean by the setting? The place and time. Okay? Then talk about the characters, the people who went with you, the people whom you saw, and describe the action. What happened? What happened during the trip? And remember to use transition words like first, after that, later on, next. Okay? Try or be sure to use a topic sentence. Start your story with a topic sentence. The topic sentence must be meaningful. So when you say interesting, everything must support this. When you say boring, a boring trip, everything must be related to this. And supporting sentence and concluding sentence. Look at the example again. The same paragraph, a trip to the zoo. Where is the title? Remember to write a title. It's in the center before the paragraph. Notice a trip, a capital, trip, capital, to the zoo, zoo, capital. A trip to Riyadh, a trip to Mecca. Okay? Now, all the words in red are about the setting. Last July, a new zoo downtown, close to our home. This is the time and the place, the setting. And we have the characters. The words are in green. My father, my mother, my brother, the characters. And we also have transition words. After, later on, during, in the end. I want you to write a similar paragraph. In this paragraph, you can ask yourself questions. These questions can help you write. Where did you go? To Riyadh, for example. When did you go? Last week. Characters. Who did you go with? Your father, your mother, your brothers, your family. Action. What happened on this trip? What happened? Okay, let's do some practice. Number one, my family took a train to Chicago last summer. Now, do we say took a train, or drove a train, or flew a train, or do we keep it the same? Is the sentence correct? If it's correct, we keep it the same. Make no change. Yes, took a train. Another sentence. The scary movie was bright. The scary movie was bright. Can we say this? Is this correct? The scary movie, you remember the meaning of scary, frightening. Was cloudy. The movie cannot be cloudy. The scary movie was frightening. Yes, frightening. Careful. No, the movie cannot be careful. make no change. Yes, the answer is frightening. The scary movie was frightening. This sentence is meaningful now. Look at number 3. Later on, we eat lunch at a new cafe. You are talking about the past, last week or last month. Do we say eat, or we eats, or did ate, or make no change, the same? What do we say in the past? We ate. Number 4, we didn't swim. This is incorrect. This is not correct. Can we say didn't swim? Or we say doesn't swim, didn't swim, doesn't swim, or is it correct? In the past, you remember, we used didn't with the base form. Didn't swim, didn't go, didn't try. Where did you go last weekend? Where did you go last weekend? Or do you go? We are talking about last weekend, in the past. Do you use do or did in the past? Look at the options. We have A, B, C, and D. A, B, C, and D. Where do you go? Where did you go? Where you go? Or is it correct? Make no change. What do you think? Of course, B is the right answer. Okay? We were on the train all day. We were on the train all day. It was very nice. On the train all day, from the morning to the evening. Is it nice? It's not nice to be on the train all day. It was terrible, very bad. It was amazing, very interesting. No. It was okay, or it was exhausting. Exhausting means very tiring. It makes you tired. When you are on the train, when you travel all day, you become tired. So it's exhausting. My family took last July a trip to Abha. Now the whole sentence is incorrect. The order of words in the sentence is incorrect. Look at the options. My family took a trip to Abha last July, or my family to Abha took a trip last July. What do you think? Subject. Where is the subject? My family. What comes after the subject? The verb. Took. And took is a transitive verb. We need an object. Took a trip. Where and when. Place and time. To Abha last July. So the answer is sentence A. Sentence A is the answer. We have the subject, and we have the verb, and the object, the place, and the time. Another sentence. We took a train Dammam to Riyadh. What's wrong with this sentence? It is not correct. Can you think about the correct answer, the correct sentence? Is it we took a trip from to Dammam, Riyadh? We took a trip from Dammam to Riyadh, or is the sentence correct? No, it's not correct. We, subject, took, verb, a trip, object, from a place to a place, from Dammam to Riyadh, from Jeddah to Abha, etc. So the answer is, okay, the answer is B. We took a trip from Dammam to Riyadh. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time, inshallah.